Max Verstappen's assertive racing style, once again under scrutiny at the Mexico City Grand Prix, has sparked fresh debate over F1's enforcement of racing rules. As Verstappen continues to push the boundaries, questions are rising. Will his clashes go unpunished, or is Formula One ready to establish stricter guidelines to rein in the aggressive racing that has often defined his approach? Verstappen's recent clashes, a tipping point? During the Mexico City Grand Prix, Verstappen received two 10-second penalties for his run-ins with McLaren's Lando Norris. These penalties are just the latest in a series of confrontations Verstappen has had with other drivers, bringing his racing style into the spotlight once again. Earlier at the United States Grand Prix, he had pushed Norris wide on multiple occasions, but surprisingly avoided any sanctions. These incidents left the F1 community questioning the FIA's consistency in enforcing racing rules. Verstappen's aggressive driving style is nothing new, but the inconsistency of penalties has led drivers and fans alike to question whether such tactics are being unfairly tolerated. After the Austin race, a meeting was held where many drivers expressed frustration over what they see as a lack of clarity in racing guidelines. As a result, the FIA has promised to revisit and update the rulebook, signaling that change may be on the horizon. A history of controversial racing, Verstappen versus Hamilton. The scrutiny of Verstappen's racing is not limited to recent clashes. It dates back to his intense title fight with Lewis Hamilton in 2021. Throughout that season, Verstappen's uncompromising approach led to numerous confrontations with Hamilton. While many of these incidents went unpunished, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff believes this leniency has emboldened Verstappen's aggressive style. Certain stewards had their opinion on what was allowed, and because it wasn't penalized, it basically legitimized it, Wolff pointed out. According to Wolff, the lack of consequences during Verstappen's championship battles has encouraged him to continue racing at the very edge of the rules. The question now is whether Formula One will take decisive action to prevent such aggressive tactics from becoming the new standard. The FIA's dilemma. Where do they draw the line? The FIA's challenge lies in finding a balance between allowing drivers to race hard while ensuring that safety and fairness are maintained. Formula One is a sport defined by the thrill of wheel-to-wheel combat, but when drivers consistently push opponents off the track, the line between competitive racing and reckless behavior becomes blurred. One of the main points of contention has been Verstappen's tendency to push opponents wide at corners, often leaving them with no choice but to run off track. This tactic has sparked calls for stricter guidelines, particularly around cornering and overtaking rules. The FIA's upcoming rule revisions aim to address these concerns, with a specific focus on ensuring that drivers leave enough space for opponents in situations where both cars are level. The rules are pretty clear, and the drivers know when someone releases the brake too late and just drags you to the corner, pushing you wide, Wolff explained. With these upcoming changes, the FIA hopes to establish clearer boundaries on acceptable racing tactics, reducing the ambiguity that has allowed Verstappen to push the limits without consistent repercussions. The new precedents. What changes can we expect? One of the anticipated changes in the revised rulebook is a crackdown on drivers running their competitors off track. According to Wolff, the new rules are likely to include a stipulation that drivers must leave space for competitors if the cars are level heading into a corner. This rule could help prevent situations where one driver intentionally pushes another off track, as Verstappen did with Norris in both the United States and Mexico. From now on, you probably have to leave space on the outside of the corner if the car is next to you, Wolff noted. On the same height and braking late and dragging the other car out of the track whilst also driving off track, I think that's not allowed anymore. The FIA's willingness to establish such clear-cut rules could signal a new era of accountability in F1. By setting precedents and eliminating loopholes, the FIA aims to level the playing field and ensure that drivers who push the limits are held accountable. This move could potentially discourage drivers like Verstappen from employing aggressive tactics that disrupt the flow of the race. A driver's perspective. Is aggression necessary in F1? For Verstappen, His aggressive racing style is part of his identity as a driver. The Dutchman has always been known for his fearless approach, often pushing his car and his competitors to the limit. From his early days in F1, Verstappen has cultivated a reputation as a relentless competitor, willing to take risks that few others would. This approach has earned him both admiration and criticism, with fans celebrating his bold moves while others view them as reckless. A driver will always push to the limit, Wolff stated, when the rules or the execution of the rules or the interpretation of the rules allow a certain way of racing. A driver like Max is always going to exploit it. Verstappen's view is that as long as the rules permit his approach, he has every right to race aggressively. His willingness to exploit the edges of the rulebook has become a defining trait, and his on-track success has only reinforced his confidence. However, with the FIA's updated guidelines on the horizon, Verstappen and other drivers may need to adjust their approach to stay within the new boundaries of acceptable racing. The future of racing standards. A new era of consistency? The recent push for clarity in F1's racing guidelines could herald a new era of consistency in how the sport is governed. By setting more specific standards around overtaking and cornering, the FIA aims to ensure that all drivers are held to the same standards, regardless of their status or past achievements. This move towards consistency is crucial in maintaining the integrity of the sport and ensuring that racing incidents are treated fairly. For Verstappen, the question is whether he will adapt to these new standards or continue to push the boundaries. His success has often hinged on his aggressive approach, but if the FIA enforces its new rules strictly, he may have to reconsider his tactics to avoid penalties. In a sport where every second counts, even a minor penalty can make the difference between victory and defeat. Wolff remains optimistic that the updated rulebook will change the way drivers approach racing, leading to cleaner and fairer competition. "You won't see that anymore," Wolff said confidently, hinting at a future where Verstappen's tactics may no longer go unchecked. Conclusion: the lasting impact on F1's competitive landscape. As the FIA prepares to roll out its revised guidelines, Formula One finds itself at a critical crossroads. Verstappen's aggressive racing style has reignited debates about the importance of fair play and consistency in penalty enforcement. If the FIA upholds its commitment to stricter guidelines, drivers will be forced to adopt a more measured approach, potentially curbing the kind of hard-nosed tactics that have characterized Verstappen's career. While some fans may lament the potential loss of racing's raw intensity, a more consistent application of the rules could enhance the sport's credibility and fairness. Verstappen's clashes with rivals like Norris and Hamilton may have been thrilling to watch, but as F1 looks to the future, the sport must decide whether such moments are worth the cost of safety and sportsmanship. In the end, the responsibility lies with both the FIA and the drivers to uphold the standards that define Formula One. For Verstappen, the challenge will be to find success within the confines of a fair and balanced rulebook. The coming seasons will reveal whether F1 can achieve this balance, or if Verstappen's clashes will continue to push the sport's boundaries. What are your thoughts on it? Leave a comment below and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.